students. In this video, we will discuss chapter number 5, which is called The Nature and the Classification of an Economy. Okay. In the previous chapter, we have already discussed what is economy. But still, let me tell you one more time that by economy, we mean a system of distribution of goods and services with a view of satisfying human wants. Or, economy can be described as an arrangement in which the various goods and services are produced and the same is distributed to the various people of society for their satisfaction. Okay. Uh, you can see here that economy can be classified on two bases. Okay. The first basis is on the degree of economic development, and the second one is on the basis of nature of economic development. Okay, so now let us see the first category, that is on the basis of degree of economic development. But before that, let us see what United Nations has to say about this. Okay, according to United Nations, the world is divided into two categories. Okay, number one is developed countries, and the second one is the developing or underdeveloped countries. Okay, so the developed countries are those countries uh, which are rich. Okay, and the developing or underdeveloped countries are the poor countries. You can see the data that has been provided here. Okay, I have extracted this from internet. One more data is also there in your book. Okay, you can also refer to that. Okay, but this is the present data that we have in our hand. So you can see here the World Bank has classified the various countries on these three bases. Okay, depending on the GNI per capita. Okay, by GNI we mean gross national income. Okay, so as per the GNI, the countries are divided into three categories. Okay, low income countries, middle income countries, and the high income countries. Okay, so low income countries are those countries which have the GNI per capita of rupees 995 or less than that. So if you want this value in terms of rupees, it will be around this 995. It will be around 74,625. Okay, just multiply it by 75 to be the average value. Okay, because every day this Indian rupees, it fluctuates against the American dollar. So let us assume this 75 is the base value. Okay, so any country which is earning less than 995, okay, per capita GNI, then it is known as low income countries. Okay, now the middle income countries are those countries which are earning more than that, that is more than 995. Okay, up to the slab of $12,055. Okay, if you want the value, again I'm repeating, just multiply it by 75. Okay, now the high income countries are those countries which earn more than $12,055, okay, per capita GNI. Okay, now this low income countries and the middle income countries together known as developing or underdeveloped countries. Okay, so you can see the data that has been provided here. Okay, that the high income countries are popularly known as the developed countries. Okay, and this data that has been provided to you is here. And this following data, this India with 17.8% of world population accounted for about 2.7% of world GNI in 2015. So these all data are taken such way. Okay, from the internet. You can see that India, okay, India have population in crores, isn't it? So it counts 17.8% of world population. Okay, so India with 17.8% of world population, it counts only 2.7% of the world gross national income in 2015. This is the data. Okay, so now you can see here how poor we are. Okay, the per capita income per head, if you just see, it is very less. Okay, India, which counts 17.8% of world population, does not even have 5% of world GNI in 2015. So you can see here that how low we are. We fall under this category of low income country, isn't it? And again, India is among the middle income countries of the world as per this GNI. Okay, so this is the figure in 2017 now. So you can see here in 2015 we were about 2.7 of the world GNI. Okay, now in 2017, you can see here the per capita GNI is rupees 1,820. So still there is no such change here. Okay. Anyway, let us move forward. Let us just see. These are just the statistical data. Okay, just to see what is the position of our country in the world. Okay. Now let us see what is developed economy. Now, this economy, as I mentioned in class, sorry, in previous chapter 4, that economy can be treated as a physical place. Okay, so by economy we mean a physical location. That is, Kalimpong is one economy, Siliguri is one economy. Okay, similarly, economy can be treated as country also. So India is one economy. Okay, uh, China, Nepal, Bangladesh, these all are the economy. Okay, so a developed economy or country can be defined as a country which has high real per capita income. So you can see here that as per the United Nations classification also, the high income countries are known as developed countries, which uh, has per capita GNI of American dollar value rupees, sorry, value dollar 12,056. Okay, and more than that. And these countries are highly developed. Okay, they have many facilities. They have high education facilities. They have high medical facilities. Okay, they have a good amount of infrastructure, and unemployment is very less. Okay, and the standard of living is very high in such countries. The examples of developed countries or economies are USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, West European countries. Okay, and some East European countries also. Okay, now let us see what are developing or underdeveloped economy. So a developing or underdeveloped economy or country can be defined as a country or economy in which real per capita income is low and has the potentiality of development. So these are those countries which have the potential to develop in near future, but at present or at the current situation they are having the low per capita income. Okay, and most of the Asian countries are developing countries, including our India. Okay, mm, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Thailand. Okay, these are the developing countries. Okay, so many African countries also. Okay, and in even the Latin American countries. Now, let us see the features of developed economy. The features of developed economy are high per capita income. Yes, they have the high per capita income and also the high standard of living. So whenever they earn more income, when the income is very high, obviously the standard of living will be maintained well. After that, they have high human development rank. So we mean by human development we mean the human resource. Okay, so they have good rank here in terms of literacy, be it in terms of uh, corporate sector. Okay, be it in terms of uh, health rank. Okay, they are always on top. Okay, and these countries they have the high literacy rate. Okay, because they provide education for free. For example, Finland, they provide education for free to all. Okay, uh, now service sector domination, yes, they provide service to all the countries. Okay, for example, today we can see here that many countries have encroached to our Indian market. So whatever you want to buy, you just go to the internet, okay, and you search for the various products, and you will see the products like Amazon and other types of gateways for the buying of items from e-commerce platform. So these countries, they provide the service, okay. They provide technical supports also. For example, if you purchase any antivirus, let us say McAfee, if you have purchased, so then they will provide the service from the outside. That is, they uh, provide service from abroad. In fact, the service centers are located in India only, okay, and the workers, they are Indian, but they work under the American countries, okay. Now, technological advancements. Yes, obviously, when they are developed economy or country, they focus more on technological advancements. Okay, they have a high amount of technology. Even we know that America has the fastest and the latest supercomputer that is made by the IBM, that is International Business Machine. Okay, the full form of IBM is International Business Machine. You should know this. Anyway, now they have high infrastructure development. Yes, the infrastructure is well developed. Okay, by infrastructure we mean the arrangement through which various commodities, or you can say to facilitate the economic activities, this infrastructure acts as the median, okay, which includes banking, roadways, communications, information technology, etc. Now, they have low growth of population rate. uh, First of all, they have high literacy rate. Okay, so when the people are educated, they know about the family planning, isn't it? So after acquiring such knowledge, they try to control the population rate. Okay, and they are always busy in the work. Okay, and such way they control the population rate. Okay, and high rate employment. Yes, they get job anytime. And even you must have noticed many American people, they are working in shifts, and a person in a day can work for 4 or 5 different sectors or companies in a day on the basis of part time. Okay, so they work as well as they enjoy a very good life. Okay, and they have employment. Okay, high rate of capital formation. This capital formation arise when there is saving. Okay, and saving encourage investment. So whenever the investment is made, it adds to the capital. So this is known as capital formation. Okay, so they are having high per capita income. Okay, their standard of living is very well maintained, and this is how they can save also. Okay, they earn and they make the payments also, and they save at the same time. So this is how they make more money. And in abroad, you must have noticed this. Like I will give you the example of America only. Whatever they earn, they invest in the market. They don't keep it in the bank. They keep it in the bank, okay, normally for the usage, okay, temporary usage, but they invest their most of the income in the market. Okay, but here in India, what do? We earn and we save in the bank, isn't it? But the people of America, they save in the bank as well as they invest more than what they save. Okay, this is how the capital formation rate is very high in those countries. Now let us see the features of developing or underdeveloped economy. Now this feature is just the opposite of the developed economy. Here we can see the low per capita income. Okay, the income generation is very low per head. By per capita we mean per head. Okay, and when they earn less income, automatically their standard of living will be very low. Okay, and there is existence of widespread poverty. Yes, there exists poverty. You must have noticed when you go to market, okay, or bazaar, or when you come to Siliguri or go to different places through train, you must have noticed many beggars roaming around. isn't it? Give me some money, give me some food. They come and ask for the money and food, isn't it? So you can see many people are the beggars here, and they are living below the poverty line. Okay. In this lockdown situation of coronavirus, we have seen many people who are suffering a lot, isn't it? So they are worried about the food. Okay. So and to facilitate this, government is also supplying them free rations, etc., just to support them. Okay, because many people are living still under the below poverty line. Okay. uh, in India, we have many beggars, if you can see that. Okay. And now there is the predominance of agriculture as the source of income and employment. Now, these developing or underdeveloped countries, they mainly focus on the agriculture. They mainly depend on the agriculture as their source of employment or income. Okay, like India. India, if you can see that in India, primarily it is an agro-based industry or economy. Okay, so many farmers, they work in their land just to yield varieties of crops. Okay. uh, you can see here that they have high growth rate of population also. Now in India, we can see this kind of problem. Okay. Because many people are still not educated. Okay. And because of poverty and many other reasons, there is high growth rate of population. You can even say that there is population explosion. Okay. Existence of large unemployment and underemployment. So many people are not working. Okay. Sometimes they work and sometimes they have to remain uh, unemployed. So unemployment is a situation in which a person is willing to work at the available wage rate in the market, but they are not getting the job. They want to work in the market even for a low salary, but they are still not getting the job. This situation is known as unemployment situation. Okay, people want to work, but they are not getting the work. This situation is known as unemployment, and this underemployment is a situation in which the individuals, they remain partially unemployed. For example, seasonal unemployment, isn't it? So this is called underemployment. Okay. Like the workers who work in the making of roads, in the construction of buildings and shopping malls, etc. So these workers, they, when they get the job, they work. Okay. And when they don't get the job, they are jobless, so they are unemployed. Now, deficiency of capital in terms of small stock of capital and low rate of capital formation. Now, this is the main reason that we cannot see economic growth in India, because people, they are not able to save money. Okay. Many people in India are not able to save. So when they are not able to save the money, so then how they can invest in the market? So when there is no investment in the market, how they can form the capital, isn't it? So this is one of the problem of developing and underdeveloped economy. Okay. Now you can also see that poor quality of human capital. You can see here that low literacy rate, low level of education. Okay. And inadequate availability of health facilities. Okay. So these are the poor human capital uh, quality that we can see in developed or underdeveloping economy. Now, use of traditional and less efficient techniques. So by this we mean that um, in the process of production, they are still using the traditional means the old ones. Okay. And less efficient techniques in the production process. For example, we must have noticed that many farmers still, they use bulls for plowing the land, isn't it? They don't use tractors and other um, machinery equipments, but they use bulls or cows. So this is the example of less efficient techniques, because if you use machinery items, then the same land can be plowed in no time, isn't it? But they are using the animals, and it takes time. Okay. And low level of productivity. By low level of productivity, we mean that the people are not able to work properly, even if an individual is educated, but he is not having that productivity in his work. Okay. And in productivity, in terms of commodities, you can say that low quality products are produced. Okay. And in terms of factors of production, you can say that the factors of production are not much productive. Okay. It is less efficient. It happens because of the uh, production technique. Okay. This point number 10 is related with point number 9. Okay. Now, low quality of life. Yes, they live in poor quality of life. They live in one place. Okay. They do not have car and other luxury items. Okay. Because of the widespread poverty and low income. Okay. And they live a very poor quality of life. Underdeveloped infrastructure. Okay. And which includes the shortage of transport, communication and power supply. Okay. Lack of financial institutions such as banks, etc. So infrastructure is also underdeveloped in such type of economy. Okay. There is a shortage of transport. uh, for example, a road may be there. Okay. But less amount of vehicles, or maybe road is not properly made, and vehicles are very rare to be found. Okay. And the communication, this communication, you must have observed yourself in person, that sometimes our network tower of mobile phone, it vanish, it just go away, isn't it? So this is because of the poor infrastructure development. Okay. And power supply, uh, load shedding and power cut down is common thing. Okay. And lack of financial institutions such as banks, etc. Like in present time, uh, we are trying to digitalize India, isn't it? We are making the payment through Bheem app, or maybe Google Pay, or Paytm, and Pay Cash or PayPal, etc. Many things are there. Okay, we even do net banking and all, but everywhere it is not present. Okay. If you go to a shop nearby your house, then you can see that such kind of facilities are not available. Okay. Like POS facilities. By POS we mean a POS, point on sale. Okay. Point of sale. So this kind of facilities are not available when you swipe the card in a shopping mall, isn't it? So that machine is not present, and many are not using the Paytm and other UPI payment applications. Now we are using, now we are digitalizing at a very slow rate, but still it has to be improved. Anyway, now unfavorable social structure and value system. Yeah, the society here is not structured or formed properly. You can see in our India also, many discriminations are there, isn't it? Depending on the class basis. Okay. Upper class, middle class and the lower class. Okay. There's um, in some places, mostly in South India, and even in Nepal, you can see that there are untouchables. Okay. So, and this value system is very not favorable in terms of the business conditions. Okay. So this is also one of the main reason behind this. Okay. And it is because of the lack of education also. Okay. And they depend on the primary exports. By primary exports, we mean whatever has been produced in the farmland will be exported to the foreign countries, like India, they produce a high amount of wheat, rice, isn't it? So they export to the other countries. So by primary exports, we mean that whatever the farm producers are there, it is exported to other countries. Okay, and let us see here the difference between developed and developing economy. You can see here whatever the points that we have discussed here, so it has been just highlighted here. Okay, you can see that. Now let us move on to the second section of classification, that is depending on the nature of economic system. Okay, so there exists three type of economic system, which is called capitalistic economy, socialistic economy, or mixed economy. This capitalistic economy is also known as capitalist economy, or capitalism, or market economy. Okay, this socialistic is also known as a socialist or socialism or centrally planned economy. Okay, and this mixed economy can also be known as hybrid economy. Okay, so let us start with this capitalist or capitalism, the first category of economic system. Now, but before this, let me tell you that this book is written by our father of economics, Adam Smith. Okay, and when this book was written, okay, around 18th century, okay, mid 18th century maybe. So after uh, this book came in the market, uh, capitalism was promoted. Okay, it is a theory. Okay, many people say that this capitalism is promoted this way, but many facts are there that capitalism was pre-existing in nature. Okay, but after this book was written, Adam Smith was given the title of father of economics, as well as he was made responsible for the explosion of capitalism in the world. Okay, so what is capitalistic economy or capitalism? Okay, so this capitalistic economy is an economy in which the productive resources, by productive resources we mean the factors of production. Okay, these factors of production are privately owned by the individuals. Okay, and these are used by them for producing various types of goods and services, so that they can earn the profit by selling the same item. Okay, and in this economy, you can see here one feature, that it is completely unplanned and uncoordinated. Okay, we will discuss what is unplanned and uncoordinated afterwards, but the main feature you see here is that the capitalism or capitalistic form of economy is an economy in which the factors of production are owned by the private individuals. Okay, uh, like this private individuals, you can assume it to be the private companies. Okay, so whatever the factors of production are there, it will be owned by the private companies, and these companies make various types of goods and services, so to sell in the market and earn the profit. Okay, and this capitalism is known as the oldest economic system, because as I said already that before Adam Smith, many people have suggested that capitalism was pre-existing in nature. Okay, Adam Smith, he just wrote the book, and he was given the title, okay, of father of economics. Anyway, the examples of capitalistic economy are USA, Canada, Japan, Australia, and most Western Europe countries. Okay, this capitalistic economy can be treated as developed economy also. Okay, so whatever are the developed countries, the same are capitalistic economy, because in capitalistic economy you can see a larger amount of wealth accumulation. Okay, because people here, they have a high uh, per capita income. Okay, and they have high standard of living, and they earn more profit by selling more and more products. Okay, they save, they make the investment. Okay, capital formation is done, and more economic growth is achieved. Okay, now let us move on to capitalistic economy. But before that, I must tell you this capitalism is promoted by this socialism is promoted by Karl Marx. Okay, so Karl Marx was a German philosopher. Okay, so he talked about this mm, system, okay, of socialism. Okay, so I have just shown you my personal collection of books. Uh, these are the books written by Karl Marx himself. Okay, so this is the main book. Okay, this is actually called Das Kapital in German. Okay, it is translated in English. It is a translated version. Okay, and these few books are there which is completely dependent which is completely based on this socialism. Okay, so whatever the topic we are discussing right now, these books are for the same. Anyway, that was just to show you and make you understand that this subject economics is very much important. Okay, we have to understand this economics subject from depth, because economics is a social science. Okay, so I just want you guys to study properly. Okay, take this subject very seriously. Okay, anyway, now let us see what is socialistic economy. Okay, now, socialistic economy is an economy in which the factors of production are owned by the society. Okay, like in capitalism, we saw that the factors of production were owned by some group of people, isn't it? And remaining people, they had no such right, isn't it? So, but in capitalism, but in socialism, what we can see here is that the factors of production are owned by the society as a whole, and operated by the public authority. So by public authority, we mean here the government. Okay. So this government, they make the economic plan. Okay, for the entire community, and the same is implemented for the welfare of society. Now this capitalism is actually only profit motive. Okay, and the factors of production are privately owned, isn't it? So that is why they accumulate wealth in their hand. Okay, and in capitalism, rich gets richer and poor gets poorer. Okay, but in socialism, it is just the opposite of it. Okay, because in socialism, the main objective is to uh, promote welfare in society. Okay, that is why the factors of production are owned by the society as a whole, and here all are given the uh, work. Okay, and no one is rich or poor. Okay, in this such form of socialistic economy. Okay, the this USSR was the first country to adopt socialism. Okay, uh, and after the this after Second World War, it was adopted. Okay, but it collapsed very soon. Okay, I personally blame this man called Stalin for this happening. Okay, it is my personal opinion. Anyway, so at present, we can see this socialism is still prevalent in countries like China, Cuba, and Vietnam. Okay, so socialism is followed. Again, I want to repeat that capitalism is a method in which the factors of production are privately owned, whereas in socialism, the factors of production are socially owned. Okay. Now, uh, these both the system, they have flaws in it. Okay, they both have advantages as well as disadvantages. The biggest disadvantage of capitalism is that it only focus on profit earning, and whatever the income is generated, it goes only in one hand. Okay, only the owners of the company, they earn the profit. Okay, and they accumulate huge amount of profit. Okay, and they give very less to the workers. Okay, actually now workers, they work in the factory, isn't it? So uh, but they don't get the amount of salary for the same. Okay, now the owner will keep all the amount of profit, the maximum amount of profit, isn't it? Because the factors of production were owned by him. Okay, and will give less amount of salary to the workers, because the workers, they don't own the factors of production. Okay, but in socialism, what we can see here is that the entire society, it owns the factors of production. So whatever the income is generated by selling goods and services in the market, it is distributed equally among all the people of society. So this socialism, it promotes social welfare. Okay, uh, but this socialistic economy, it doesn't focus on profit motive. Okay, and when the profit is not generated, we cannot see the high level of economic growth. Still, in socialistic economy also, we can see the economic growth, but not as compared to the capitalism. Okay, and it has many demerits also. We will see it afterwards. It is just the introduction. Now, why this mixed economy? Okay, we already have seen capitalism, socialism. So why this is needed? Because this form of economy, it combines both the aspects of capitalist as well as socialist. Okay, so it is actually the combination of good sides of capitalism and socialism. It brings both the good sides of capitalism as well as good sides of socialism. Okay, we will see it afterwards. What are the good sides? Okay, and uh, this is also known as uh, centrally hybrid system of economy, in which both private and the public sectors, they work hand in hand. And the countries like India, Myanmar, Nepal, they are mixed form of economy. Okay, now let me tell you in short that capitalism is followed by the developed countries. Okay, because the countries which are already developed and they don't have the poor people in society, so they will follow the capitalism. Okay, they will promote in making of varieties of goods. Okay, luxury items, and they earn more profit. Okay, now the countries which are less developed or underdeveloping, they follow this socialism. Okay, for the welfare of society. Okay, but mixed form of economy is adopted by those countries, by those developing countries, so that they can have economic growth as well as social welfare hand in hand. Okay, now when you follow capitalism, what happens is that the social welfare is neglected. Okay, they do not worry about the welfare of society. Okay, they will produce whatever the items they have to produce, and they will sell. Okay, even if it is not having any social value, or if it is bringing any negative effect on the people. Okay, uh, still they produce and they sell in the market for the profit. But in socialism, what they do is that they produce limited amount of goods which only has the social values, and they promote welfare of the society. Okay, but they do not worry about the profit. Okay, sometimes this socialism can also face the loss also. Okay, they can undergo huge amount of loss, but still they want to promote the society. Okay, but this mixed economy is such form of economy which is 50%. Just assume that. Okay, just assume it to be 50%. Let us suppose it is capitalism and 50% it is socialism. So they look after the profit also, and at the same time they look after the social welfare. Okay, now let us see the features of capitalistic economy. Now we have already seen what is capitalism or capitalistic economy. Let us now see the features of capitalistic economy. Now, number one, private property. Yes, the fundamental feature of capitalism is that the factors of production are privately owned. Okay, and this right to property is present in terms of capitalism. Okay, they can um, privately own the factors of production, just like at present now we own the house, we own the car, isn't it? So this is the feature of capitalism. Okay, whatever the mobile phone you are having in your hand, okay, whatever the computer you have in your house, Okay, your land, your bank balance, these all are your private properties, isn't it? So capitalism has this feature. So now you must be thinking that why living in India we can have this. Just now I mentioned that mixed economy, okay, has both the aspects of capitalism as well as socialism. So India is a mixed economy. So this right to property is present in our economic system. Okay. Now right of inheritance. This is very simple. You must have heard this before also. So, whatever the property that has been owned by the individual can be passed on to his legal heir, isn't it? Uh, like in previous times, what used to happen? Uh, a king used to rule a particular region, okay, and after his death, okay, his son would be the next king, isn't it? So this is called inheritance. So this is how the right of inheritance is going on and on, okay, only in one hand, okay, and this is one of the feature of capitalism, and this freedom of enterprise and occupation. So in capitalism, this is a very good thing here, that there is a freedom of enterprise. By enterprise we mean that private enterprises are free to use the factors of production, okay, and they choose what kinds of products they want to produce, okay. So this is a very good thing here. And occupation, here the people, okay, the individuals of society can also choose whatever the occupation they want to choose from society, okay. I want to be doctor, I want to be lawyer, I want to be a policeman, I want to join the army, I want to be a teacher, I want to be the pilot, okay, I want to be a businessman. So in society people can choose varieties of occupation. So here in capitalism we can see a very good thing here, that there is freedom of enterprise and freedom of occupation. You can say that this is the freedom of economy, that is the economic freedom, okay. Anyway, now this feature is now again elaborated here, that number 4, freedom of choice for the consumers. Yes, consumers here they choose what they want to purchase, okay. They are the main people, okay, and in this capitalism consumers are treated as king, okay, uh, because they are the main boss here, okay. uh, I want to purchase this particular item, I want to have this particular toothpaste, okay, I want to purchase this um, brand's shoe. So we purchase, isn't it? So we have the freedom because we have varieties of items to choose from, and no one is forcing us to purchase that particular item, isn't it? There is no such thing, isn't it? So we are the main person here. We are the king of market. That we have the freedom to choose from various goods available in the market. Now let us assume that you want to purchase a mobile phone. Okay, so there are varieties of mobile phone, isn't it? In the market, we have iPhone, we have Oppo, Vivo. What's that next? This Samsung is there, Nokia, Google Pixel. So varieties of mobile phones are there, isn't it? So you can choose from any of these items. So this is the freedom of choice for the consumers. Now, this is very important. This point number 5, price mechanism, you can see here. By price mechanism is actually, we mean it is a process of fixing a price. Okay, how to fix a price of a particular commodity. For example, a price of pen is rupees 10. Okay, so how this price is fixed at rupees 10? It could be 5 also, it could be 15, it could be 13 rupees also, it could be 100 rupees also. So how to fix a price of a particular commodity? Okay, this is only known as price mechanism. And in capitalism, price is fixed or determined by the market forces, and this market forces are known as demand and supply. Okay, if anyone asks you, tell me what is market forces, or what do you mean by market forces, now your answer should be demand and supply, together known as market forces. Okay, so uh, there is a long and broad classification also. Okay, but we will discuss in the later chapters about these market forces, demand and supply. Anyway, so price is fixed depending on the market forces. Okay, so depending on demand and supply, the price is fixed. Okay, now let me tell you one simple thing. When the supply is limited, okay, automatically the demand will increase. Okay, and when the demand increases, price also increases. Now see here, this is very important. If you have copy with you, please note down that when the supply is fixed, okay, the supply is stopped here. At that point of time, demand will go very high. Okay, and as the demand goes up, price also goes up. Now, you must have noticed in this lockdown situation, okay, masks were unavailable, and sanitizers also. It is limited, isn't it? Because the shops are closed, and we cannot even purchase from this Flipkart or Amazon, etc. We cannot purchase online, isn't it? So everything is locked down, isn't it? So the supply is fixed. That is why there was high demand in the market. Okay, and as the demand was very high, price was also very high. Okay, so sanitizers which costing rupees 50 or 60 rupees are now sold in the market for 250 or 300 rupees. Okay, the simple masks are sold for high prices. So you can see here that when the supply is fixed, demand it goes up, and as the demand goes up, supply sorry the price of that particular commodity also goes up. And now when the supply is made very high, okay, when there is more supply, at that point of time demand will go down. Okay, uh, and as the demand goes down, price falls. So we will see in great detail about this demand and supply in the later chapters, but for now just assume that um, as per the interaction between demand and supply, okay, uh, the prices are fixed in the market, and this phenomenon is only known as price mechanism. Okay, and as you can see that the various commodities are having a price tag here, isn't it? So in capitalism, various commodities have this price tag. Okay, and depending on the consumer's choice and preference, and as per his purchase power or capacity or his income, he will purchase the commodity. Okay, if he can afford the commodity, he will buy it. If he cannot, then he will not purchase it, then he have to look for other items. Okay, and this price mechanism, it plays a vital role, and this is coined as invisible hand by Adam Smith, the father of economics. Okay, now competition. See, competition is one of the basic feature of capitalism. There exists a high degree of competition in the market. Okay, and there is market rivalry. Now you can see here uh, between the Chinese companies, okay, and this Korean companies, there is a uh, clash going on in the market. For example, in India, okay, in India, more than 50%, okay, more than 50% of mobile phones are Chinese. Okay, you purchase Mi, you purchase Realme, you purchase Xiaomi, you purchase this OnePlus, okay, Vivo, Oppo, all these are Chinese companies. Okay, but we have only one brand, this Samsung, which is a South Korean company, isn't it? And one brand, this American company, iPhone. So there is a competition in the market. Okay, and because of this competition, there is rivalry in the market, and because of rivalry, what happens is that they tend to compete with each other, and they will produce more and more efficient products. Okay, so they compete with each other, and they this is how they uh, perform better, and more efficient items are produced in the market. So now this competition exists in both the markets. Okay, whether it be a product market or a commodity market or factor market. By commodity market, we mean a market where the commodities are sold, okay, or a consumer market where you go and buy the things, okay. So that is only known as a commodity market. So there is a competition in such market. They always want to sell their product only, okay. uh, Oppo, they want to sell uh, Oppo phones in the market. They want all the people to purchase Oppo phones only in the market. Okay. Now Samsung, it comes here. Now Samsung wants to sell its product only in the market. So this is how uh, the competition it exists. Now there is competition in factor market also. So in factor market, they compete with each other to purchase the efficient factors from various sources, and this is how the competition is generated, and it brings more and more efficiency. Now, profit motive. Capitalism is highly profit motive, and it is an integral part of capitalism. Okay, and they just want to sell various goods and services just to earn the profit. Okay, and in this process, the social values are completely neglected. For example, producing guns. Okay, they produce various types of guns in the market. They know that it can be purchased by anyone. Okay, but since in uh, capitalism, consumers they enjoy whatever they want to purchase. Okay, so they can purchase the guns, and using guns, the criminal minded people can do anything, isn't it? uh, like in America, it is very easy to purchase guns. Even in the, excuse me, even in the grocery stores, they can uh, purchase guns and the bullet items. Okay, but in India, the same is restricted here. Okay, under the Arms Act. So this is the difference. Okay, which we can see here. And capitalism is, that is why it is only after the profit making. Now it is this capitalism is also uh, have a negative side. Okay, which is not that good. Okay, which is self interest. Now this capitalistic economy is guided by personal interest. Okay, so whenever an individual is engaged in an economic activity, okay, he is not involved in there just because of his personal interest. Okay, it is uh, for the personal interest in terms of earning the profit. Okay, because he wants to get involved in such activity just to earn the profit. That's why they have the personal interest here. Okay, they don't have the personal interest of psychological benefit or the satisfaction. Okay, now even Adam Smith has quoted that this, you can see here, it is not for the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own self interest, we address ourselves not to their humanity, but to their self love, and never talk to them of our own necessities, but of their advantages. So now, even father of economics has observed this kind of point here. It is very simple. Let me explain you in short. Whenever you go to a shop, okay, just to have some food, okay, now let's go to a shop where you want to have momo, okay. Now when you go to a shop and you purchase momo just to have it, okay, so it is not because of that shopkeeper, okay, it is not because of the social interest of uh, that shopkeeper is making. Okay, he is not uh, making momo to feed you. He is actually making momo to sell such item so that the money can be earned. Okay, so here we can see here the self interest is present. So whatever the sellers are selling in the market is not for our benefit, it is for their self interest. If you go to another shop and you want to have ice cream, okay, the sellers will not sell the ice cream just because you want to have the ice cream, but because they want to actually sell ice cream in the market and earn money, isn't it? So this is why this capitalism is driven by self-interest. Okay, and in this capitalism, we can see the minimum government interference. Okay, government has no interference at all. Even if it is there, it is very least. Okay, now, features of socialist economy. Just now we saw the features of capitalistic economy. Now let us see the features of socialism or socialistic economy. The features of socialistic economy are as follows: better allocation of resources. This is actually possible because of the existence of central planning authority. Okay, so by a central planning authority we mean a government. Okay, a form of government which exists, and it actually do survey. Okay, and depending on that survey it makes the budget, and it plans what type of resources are to be allocated and how it is to be utilized for the benefit of society. So this is how the resources are better allocated. Okay, and the same is not present in capitalism, because in capitalism there is no central planning authority. Okay, and the coordination lacks. Now here, uh, the feature of socialistic economy, this feature is very important: maximum utilization of resources. The resources are fully utilized. Okay, what happened is that in socialistic sorry capitalism, okay, what happens is that the resources, they remain underutilized just because of the cutthroat competition. Okay, but in socialism we can see that the uh, resources are fully utilized, and nothing is wasted here. Okay, now, elimination of economic instability. Uh, in capitalism, there exists economic instability. Okay, because first of all, they don't distribute the income equally. Okay, and there is no planning authority, so anything can happen in market. Okay, it can be the social waste also. Okay, but in socialism, the same is uh, not present here. Okay, so there is presence of central planning authority, and the decisions are uh, made, and this is how the various situations like inflation and deflation are controlled. Okay, equal distribution of income. Yes, unlike in uh, capitalism, there is no unequal distribution of income. Every individual of society gets equal amount of money. Okay, and they live a very simple life. Now, here in capitalism, sorry, socialism, there is no class struggle. Okay, the class struggle is completely eliminated. Okay, there is no rich or poor. No one is rich or poor in such type of economic system. Okay, now provision of social security. So by social security do not mean that when you go out and somebody will capture you, somebody will kidnap you, somebody will come and hit you. No, it's not that. The social security, it means that providing them food, education, health, okay, housing facilities, etc. These are termed as social security, and in socialism this is provided first, because this is the requirement to every individual, isn't it? But in capitalism these are neglected. Okay, now increase in productive efficiency. So in socialist economy what happens is that every individual gets the work, okay, depending on his or her abilities, and no one is exploited here. And when they are working for the welfare of society, they get this encouragement, and they work harder, and this brings more efficiency. Okay, but let me tell you one thing, that this is also one of the main disadvantage of socialism, because in capitalism what happens, they get the reward for this. Okay, but in socialism we don't get this kind of reward. Okay, whether you work properly or not, in socialism you will get the salary. Okay, but in capitalism, it is just opposite. If you work nice, you get salary. If you don't work properly, then you will not get salary. So that is capitalism. And in socialism, everybody will get salary. Okay, okay. Now, rapid economic growth. See, economic growth is achieved when the utilization of resources is there. Okay, and for this we need investment also. That is capital formation. So what happens is that when the factors of production are socially owned, they produce necessity items. Okay, they exclude luxury items. Okay, they only produce very simple items which are of the basic needs, and the same is provided in a very low price. Okay, they purchase quality material. Okay, and they sell in a very low price. Okay, so this is how they can earn some portion of their income. Okay, so whatever the income they are getting from society by or by working, they do not have to spend entire income, because the goods and services are available in a very low price but of high quality. Okay, and they save some portion of capital, and this is how they make investment in the market, and the capital is formed. Okay, and economic growth is achieved. Now, production of more useful goods. So, just as we mentioned above, that only the products having social values are produced, and unnecessary and luxury items are not produced. Okay, so the social goods or the goods having social values are uh, water supplies. Okay, food supply, roadways, railways, schools, hospitals, banks. Okay, defense facilities, etc. These all are the social goods which is to be produced in the society. Okay, so the unnecessary item like producing unwanted gadgets. Okay, expensive mobile phones, expensive headphones. Okay, so these are not that necessary, isn't it? So people, they want food, clothes and shelter, they want education, they want proper water supply, isn't it? They want quality food products, isn't it? So by purchasing this kind of luxury items, no one can have the benefit. No one can get the benefit, isn't it, in the market? So when we have water, food, this kind of transportation facilities, every individual of society can enjoy freedom, and the social welfare can be achieved. So in socialism, we mostly focus for the welfare of society. Okay, now let us see the features of mixed economy. Now we have discussed the features of mixed capitalism and socialism. Actually, what I have done here is that I have brought in the merits or the advantages of uh, socialism to be the features of mixed features of socialism. Okay, because whatever are the features, okay, they are almost similar with the advantages. That is why I have brought in here, because I had to type a lot much. There is 45 slides here, that's why I just copy paste here. Okay, so I'm sorry for that. uh, I had to do that. Anyway, so we saw the features of capitalism as well as socialism, isn't it? So here, uh, both the positive aspects of capitalism as well as socialism are mixed together, and a new form of economy is formed, and that is called mixed economic system or mixed economy. Okay, now number one, coexistence of private and public sectors. Uh, there exists both private and public sectors. Okay, and they function together for the welfare of society as well as for earning the profit. Okay, now coexistence of features of capitalistic and socialist economies. Yes, both uh, capitalism and socialism have some good aspects or good sides, and that is brought up here in mixed economy. And whatever are the negative sides are there, which is neglected here. Okay. Now, economic planning. Yes, in mixed economy, we can see that the feature of socialism is present here. That central planning authority is present. Okay, and the private sector also are part of the central planning authority because they have to work. Okay, government, they make the decision and they order the private companies to work for them, just like now electricity. Okay, it has been now privatized. Railways are also partially privatized. So by privatization, we mean the conversion of public sectors to private sectors. Okay, so they will ask the private companies to work on behalf of government. So this economic planning is completely done here. Okay, and they do survey. Okay, uh, and they both plan together so that economic system can function smoothly and properly. Okay, now regulation and control of private sector. Yes, see, now the private sectors, they are generated from capitalism. And this private sector is guided by profit earning motive. Okay, so in mixed economy, it is the duty of government to check on private sector all time, because private sector can anytime exploit the consumers by charging high price. Okay, so this is why government, they uh, charge tax upon them. Okay, and they see whether they are not violating any norms or not. Okay, social violation is there or not, so they keep on checking, and they produce, okay, both necessity items as well as luxurious items, because in capitalism they produce luxury items. They give more importance to the luxury items, okay, or the quality items. Okay, and in socialism they focus mainly on the necessity items. Okay, so both the mm, products are for our satisfaction, isn't it? So in mixed economy we can see that both essential items as well as luxury items are produced so that consumers can enjoy both the items. Okay, now promotion of social welfare. Yes, social welfare is also achieved because this social welfare is the vision of socialism, isn't it? And private sectors, they, what they do is that they produce varieties of goods. Okay, and government, they supply the same in a very low price, or sometimes they donate to the people. Just now in this corona situation, lockdown situation, uh, government organizations, they are providing free food or free rations to the people, isn't it? So this is a form of donation. Now, price mechanism. So we saw in capitalism how the price is fixed. Okay, and in socialism the price is fixed by the government. Okay, which is very low price. Okay, almost near to the cost of production, or even sometimes lower than the cost of production, depending on the nature of market. Okay, and in capitalism what we have seen is here that if the demand is very high, price is also very high, isn't it? And sometimes the people, they cannot achieve. And mixed economy is an economy in which the developing and underdeveloped economies are found. Okay, so in mixed economy what government and private sectors, they do is that they come to an agreement. Okay, and there exists a price floor and the price ceiling. Okay, by price floor, we mean a minimum price that is to be charged for a particular product. For example, let us suppose it to be a pen. Okay, so the maximum price is rupees 10. You must have noticed in various items, okay, or the price tag that you have seen, MRP is written, isn't it? So MRP stands for maximum retail price. That is the maximum price. That is the price ceiling. okay, MRP. And sometimes you must have also noticed while purchasing mobile phones or laptops or other items, maybe shoes, clothes, seller, they sell below the tag price. Okay, how they are doing? It is because of the existence of price floor, the minimum price that the good can be sold in the market. Okay, so price floor and price ceiling is available so that the consumers are not exploited. Okay, because the private companies can charge more price, isn't it? Because in mixed economy both private and public sectors are present, and private sectors can charge high price from the consumers. So just to avoid that, they have this kind of mechanism. And profit motive, yes, um, public sector promotes social welfare, but the private sectors are motivated by profit earning. So both these objectives are fulfilled by uh, private as well as public sectors by promoting social welfare as well as profit earning. Okay, and the preservation of freedom. Now we saw this kind of freedom in capitalism, isn't it? But this kind of freedom was not present in socialism. So in mixed economy, this kind of freedom is present, that there is freedom of private enterprise, and consumers can also enjoy the freedom of choosing varieties of products according to their choice and preferences. Okay, but with certain limitations that is laid down by the government. Now let us see the merits of capitalistic economy. Uh, Spirit of enterprise. So in capitalistic economy, the enterprise, this by enterprise we mean a company. Okay, so they have this feeling of forming a company. Okay, to become a company, and they take risk in the market. Okay, and they compete with each other so that more and more profit can be achieved. Now they also take initiative for the technological progress. They welcome the technological advancement. Okay, they always look for the new type of methods of production. Okay, new techniques they are always looking for. That is why they do research and development. Okay, they invest huge amount of money for R&D, that is research and development. Okay, so that uh, this competition, in this phase of competition, okay, they can be always on top. You must have noticed that mobile phones are produced and in huge quantity, isn't it? And the same mobile phone, I mean, the same company, they produce varieties of mobile phone. Let us say Samsung, they are producing Galaxy A30, A50, A70. So every time, what they are doing, they are upgrading the system, isn't it? So they are making the technological advancement. They are making the technological progress here. So this is how the in the market they uh, beat other competitors in competition. Okay, and the new products are always made. Now we can also see here the resources are efficiently used because in capitalistic economy what happens is that the individuals are rewarded. Okay, whoever works nice or whoever performs better will be rewarded. They will be given bonus or some incentives. Okay, but whoever are inefficient workers, who are lazy, who don't perform well, they are penalized. Okay, they are charged with fine. So what happens is that at this point of time the workers, they will get the encouragement to work more and more for the reward or bonus that they will get at the end. So this is how the efficiency is brought. For example, if a worker is who is working in factory can make 400 bulbs, I mean the tube light. Okay, so the owner of the company, he said that if you produce 500 tube lights, then I will give you some amount of money to you. Okay, or I may give you something as reward. So he will get the encouragement. So now in one day he could produce only 400, so he will try to produce more and more. So this brings the efficiency. Okay, and more items will be produced. So this is how the production capacity will be increased. Okay, Now, incentive for capital formation. Yes, in capitalist economy, it is very simple. They earn more and more profit. Okay, and this more and more profit will tend to higher rate of investment. Okay, and thus economic growth is achieved. And you can see here point number 5, as we already discussed in point number 2, that every time they make the technological advancement, so the new products will be, of course, it will be produced in the market. So new consumer goods are always available. So you can see here that Samsung can produce varieties of goods. Okay, maybe 2 months before they have produced a particular commodity. Okay, let us say mobile phone only. Let us say Galaxy Note A30. Okay, now after 2 3 months they will come up with different product A30s. Okay, the model is varied here. Previously they produced A30 and now they will produce A30s. So this is how they keep on producing more and more consumer good items. And this is only the example of the Samsung, but varieties of mobile phones are there in market, isn't it? So they always produce more and more consumer goods so that consumer can choose from the availed goods in market. Now, flexibility and adaptability. This capitalistic economy is very much flexible, and it has the capacity to adapt itself in different market conditions. Okay, if market is going in a very critical situation, let us say there is deflation in market. Okay, all the prices are coming down. So here they will adapt themselves as per the market situation. Okay, so in various market situations they can uh, survive, and this is one of the feature of capitalism. Okay, now automatic working. See here, this price mechanism, it is actually automatic system. Okay, that is why Adam Smith also said it is an invisible hand. So this mm, price mechanism, it works automatically. So depending on demand and supply, okay, this chain, okay, this circle, it goes on and on. Okay, demand supply, so it goes on and on. So these forces are always present in the market. So depending on this, the price mechanism is based. So this capitalism, this market, it functions on its own. You don't have to push the market. Okay, this market, it goes on its own. Okay, it is driven by the market forces. So sometimes it can be slow or sometimes it can be very fast. Okay, so that is how this market functions, which is automatic market. Okay, anyway, now the economic freedom. So in capitalism, they enjoy, the consumers as well as the producers, they enjoy the economic freedom because there is less government intervention. Just like I mentioned earlier, this example, that in America it is very easy to purchase gun, even in the grocery stores or in varieties of shops. You can purchase gun easily. Okay, in one day only you can get the gun license and you can start using. Okay, now increase in production and standard of living. So see, in capitalism, the goods and services are produced in large scale. Okay, they are produced in large. Okay, they do the mass scale production. Okay, so they now when are producing in mass, it adds to the national income. So when the national income, it is increasing, automatically the per capita income also increases, and when the per capita income increases, the standard of living automatically it is maintained. Now, expansion of international trade. So in capitalism, what happens is that when they are producing more and more, okay, they have this kind of uh, feature that they want to expand their market. Okay, so they go beyond the national boundary. Okay, like this mobile phone, iPhone. Okay, it is an American company based, isn't it? But they want to expand their market, so they are selling to varieties. Uh, uh, sorry, they are selling to various countries here, like in India, Nepal, okay, Bangladesh. They are selling to China, Pakistan, everywhere. They are selling everywhere. Like Coca-Cola also. It is also an American company, so it is not only selling inside the America, it is selling outside also, isn't it? Even small children, they are fond of drinking this cold drinks. So how is this possible? It is all possible because of the international trade. So now this phenomenon or the process of internationalizing domestic product is known as globalization. I hope you have heard this term this globalization before also, isn't it? Anyway, now let us see the demerits now. What are the disadvantages of capitalistic economy? First of all, we can see that there is unequal distribution of income and wealth. As we already discussed, that poor gets poorer and rich gets richer. So, because it happens because the factors of production are privately owned by some individuals, so they control everything. So whatever the income is generated by selling those goods and services, they keep with them large amount of profit, and they give very less salary to the workers. Okay. And class struggle. So in capitalism there exists a class struggle. Okay. So whoever are having high amount of income, whoever are rich, are known as capitalists or the industrialists. Okay, they are known as capitalists. And the workers. So even in our time now, we say no that middle class family, high class family, or the upper class family. Okay, so this kind of struggle, it exists in the capitalism. Okay, so it is one of the major problem that many clashes have taken place. Okay, many this union of workers, they go on strike. Okay, they uh, protest against their exploitation, and they demand for high salary or high wage rate because they work actually on the field, isn't it? So this class struggle is always going on, and sometimes we can also see the violence. So this is one of the biggest drawback of capitalism. Now economic instability. See, in capitalism, there is no central planning authority. There is no government, okay, and there is no such body to make the plan. The various uh, owners or various producers, they produce as per their requirement. Okay, when their items are sold more in the market, they will produce more. Okay, but there is no central planning authority which can make the forecast of market. Okay, so sometimes this can bring problem in market. Okay, and this can bring uh, adverse market effects like inflation and deflation. Okay, etc. And here uh, the resources are also sometimes misallocated, like luxury items, let us say that. Okay, so when they produce luxury items for high cost, okay, neglecting the society. Okay, so what they do is that the resources that are already used for making such luxury items, okay, cannot be taken back, isn't it? And these items sometimes in market are not sold. Okay, like many mobile phones, maybe many branded garments are not sold in the market, isn't it? So high cost shoes, okay, so it may not be sold in the market, isn't it? Because of high price, because all people cannot afford to buy it. So what happens is that the stock, it remains. Okay, so the resources, those resources could be used for making the necessary items, isn't it? Uh, those resources can be used for making other various items which could provide welfare to the society, or the same manpower can be used for the welfare or the benefit of the other people, but the resources are misallocated here. Okay. Now, wastes of capitalist production. Now, just we saw in point number 4 that the resources can also be misallocated. So it is just the extension to that point. Okay. So we can see here the waste. Point number 1. As the new technology of production is discovered, the old one is discarded. Obviously, when you are using a mobile phone, a particular mobile phone, okay, let us say model number 1. So after 3 months, model number 2 will appear. So you will go for model number 2 because you will think that model number 2 is much better. Okay, and you will discard sorry, model number 1. You will not use it. Okay, you will give to your younger sister or whoever. Okay, now again after 2 3 months, model 3 will come. Now you will purchase model number 3 and you will discard model number 2. So this way, the resources that were used to produce, it becomes the waste. Now it becomes completely waste. Okay, so the old one is discarded. Now this point number 2 explain the same thing, that when you have the new model in the market, old models are, they are discarded. Okay, point number 3. Oh, sorry, this point number 1 was about the technique of production. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, point number 3. Producers go in for excessive advertisement in order to push their sales. Yes, they make advertisement. While watching a movie or serials, you must have noticed advertisement. It appears, isn't it? Ads like shampoo, perfume, deodorant, and other items. Okay, so this advertisement, it also costs. It is not for free. So when this advertisement is made, they have to pay some amount of money. Okay, so what happens is that uh, this advertisement money is actually included in the cost of production. So this cost of production, it becomes higher. Okay. Mm, and that is to be borne by the consumers ultimately. So that is why the price is very high. Like sometimes we may notice that this particular mobile phone is very high. Let us say 40,000 rupees. We say it is brand. No, it's not about the brand. You are loyal to the brand. That is why you say that it is for the brand value. No, it is not about the brand value. It is about the cost of advertisement, because when you have to do the advertisement, you have to bring in stars like celebrities. Okay, you have to bring in the actors, models. You have to bring in the sports personals. So you have to pay for that, isn't it? You have to pay them. It is not for free of cost, isn't it? And you have to bring the entire crew member of for this advertisement. So you have to make the payment for them. So this is not for free. That is why when you purchase a particular commodity, advertisement is also included in that particular item. So next time, whenever you purchase any commodity from the market, okay, just think that advertisement cost is also included there. And this plant capacity, by plant capacity we mean the capacity of a factory. Okay, this factory capacity, it is always underutilized due to the cutthroat competition, because in market various producers are there selling their commodities. Okay, so what happens is that they do not go for 100% capacity. Okay, uh, all the factories, it works under the 100% capacity, sometimes like 40%, 60%. Okay, so this is how the this capacity is remained underutilized. I will tell you one example here. Mm, uh, I don't remember the year, but I went to this cement factory. Okay, Pacific Cement Factory. It is here in Siliguri. Okay, in that Fulbari area. Okay, So there is a cement factory, Pacific Cement. So when we went to that factory for the survey, we saw that the factory was only working in 40% capacity. Okay, then we asked the manager of that factory that why this factory is only running in 40% capacity. Then he said that because of the low demand in market. And he said again that during the season time, okay, during the construction period, what happens is that they get the orders. Okay, they get the orders. When they get the orders, this capacity is now increased up to 70 or 80%. But it happens only for 3 to 5 months, and again after the completion of such period, the factory it performs uh, under 40%. Because in market, not only this cement is present, isn't it? Many varieties of cements are present in market, like Ambuja cement, Birla cement. Okay, varieties of cements are there in market, isn't it? So for this reason, the factory they run under the capacity. Okay, just because of the cutthroat competition. Now emergence of monopoly power, yes. Now what happens is that this capitalist economy uh, is characterized by a domination of monopolists. So by monopolists, we mean those group of individuals who own the factors of production. Okay, they have huge amount of money with them, and they control entire production mechanism, and they exploit the consumers by charging high price for them. For example, a company, let us say, a company only produces mobile phones. Okay, and there is no close substitution regarding to that. So what they do is that they can charge high price. For example, this iPhone is only produced by Apple company, isn't it? If there were other companies which produce genuine iPhone, I'm not talking about this copy paste product, okay, or the Chinese products, okay, the duplicate products, okay. So if there was close substitution to iPhones, then the price would be very low, isn't it? So that is why you can see here in capitalism that the consumers can be exploited by monopolists. Okay. Now, neglect of social welfare. Yes, in order to earn profit, the social values, ethical values are completely ignored. Okay, and they do not worry about the social welfare. Okay. Now, point number 8, domination of economic values. This capitalism has actually promoted materialism. Now understand this concept very well. Okay, materialism. This materialism is actually a belief that money and possession of economic goods like clothes, branded shoes, okay, branded mobile phones are the most important thing in life. This is called materialism. Nowadays many people they show off, isn't it? What brand shoe you are wearing? I'm wearing this brand shoe. I'm wearing this brand pant. Okay, this T-shirt, this pullover, this mobile phone. See, I have an iPhone in my hand. So this is actually called materialism. So it is all because of capitalism actually. Okay, so it has given more values to the earthly materials. Okay, which is not necessary at all. Okay, and for the self-interest. So at this present time, earning money has become the main purpose of life. They only want to earn the profit and money. Okay, and whatever be the method for earning the money, okay, they go for it. Okay, be it by looting some bank, okay, or by killing some people, or by mm, committing some crime, okay, or by joining some terrorist groups, be it any method, they just want to earn the money. So this is called materialism. Okay, and in fact, now today, okay, whenever we see how much successful you have become, so now even the individual success, okay, today I have become very much successful. Today I have flat, I have car today, I have bike, I have huge amount of bank balance. So whenever a person has this kind of things, we say that the person is successful. Okay, so actually in society, this individual success is measured in terms of economic progression. How much economic growth he has made. Okay, the more money he has accumulated is treated as individual's success. Okay, and the human values, social values, religious values, cultural values, and the traditional values are deteriorating day by day. Okay, now advantages of socialistic economy. Now we have already discussed here this merits of socialistic economy because I just copy paste in the features of socialistic economy, so we will skip this portion. Okay, and now disadvantages of socialistic economy. Uh, See, number one, first of all, is the difficulty involved in rational allocation of resources, because the factors of production are owned by society. Okay, and it is their own commodity now. Okay, and there is no competition also, because there is only one authority, which is central planning authority. There is only one government, okay, which controls everything. So that particular government do not have to compete with each other, because only one government is looking after that particular country or economy, isn't it? So at this point of time, the efficient factors cannot be purchased, and the production, it cannot sorry, the cost of production cannot be rationalized. Okay, now loss of efficiency. Now see, already I mentioned this point in socialism, that uh, all the workers, they get job, okay, depending on their abilities. Okay, so in capitalism, we saw that the bonus is to be given. Okay, whoever works better will be given some reward or bonus. But in socialism, the same is absent. Okay, whether you work properly or not, whether you work better, whether you perform efficiently, you will not be given the reward or bonus. So what happens is that now they, the laborers or the individuals, now they will be discouraged. Okay, so and they will also not adopt the new production technique. Okay, so this is how the efficiency is lost in socialism. Now loss of incentives, since the workers in socialism, okay, are all the government workers. Okay, all the individuals are the government workers. So when whether they work properly or not, they will get salary. Okay, so this is how they lose the efficiency, and they do not take the incentives from their part also. Okay, by incentive we mean the initiation. Okay, by incentive we mean the rewards also. So incentives have two meanings here. Okay, now this in socialism, there is the abolition of private property. So property is not owned by private, it is actually owned by the society. So today we can purchase a particular car, and we can privatize it. It becomes your own commodity, isn't it? But in socialism, it is not present. When you purchase a car, it becomes a social car. Okay, everything becomes government, everything becomes public. Okay, when you purchase a mobile phone, now that mobile phone will be used by all people. Okay, now that mobile phone will be a telephone booth for every people of society. So this discourage the workers to work efficiently, and this is how they will not accumulate wealth also. Okay, so they will not save the money, and they do not accumulate wealth, and they do not take any initiative. Now loss of consumers sovereignty. Here, the limited amount of goods and services are produced, and consumers, they do not have the choice. Okay, so it is their bad luck that they have to choose from whatever the goods that is available. For example, only like if mobile phone, okay, only one type of mobile phone will be made in the market. Okay, so they don't have any choice, so they have to go for that particular mobile phone that is made by the government. Okay, now loss of freedom. There is no freedom of private enterprise, and this uh, consumers, they do not have the freedom to choose from varieties of goods. And when these are not present. Okay, when there is no freedom of such things, okay, when you have no freedom to choose various goods and services, the people will not enjoy the civil rights. Okay, they will also be debarred from political freedom. Okay, and this leads to a regimented economy. Now, in North Korea, you must have heard about North Korea, isn't it? So you cannot cut hair as per your choice, isn't it? Even the girls and boys, they have to cut hairs as mentioned by the government only. Okay, and you cannot worship any god, and you cannot roam around here and there. So many restrictions are there, isn't it? So this socialism can lead to a regimented form of economy. And this is very bad. Okay, this is a very bad side of socialism, which I personally do not like. This concentration of economic and political power. Yes, this is the extension, okay, of this one. Point number 6. Point number 5 and point number 6 are, they are related with each other. In socialism, this center planning is the main authority. Okay, they make all the decisions. Government and the bureaucrats are the main whole and soul of the economy. Okay, so whatever the decision, whatever the power is in their hand, so they control the entire economic system. Okay, and this promote dictatorship. Like in North Korea, again, I want to give the same example. North Korea, we can see the dictatorship, isn't it? In North Korea, Kim Jong Un, he is a dictator, isn't it? So he is controlling the entire economy. Now, point number 7: loopholes in the planning process. Now, when the planning mechanism is not um well maintained, there will be problem in the economic function. Okay, so in socialism, the social, now see, this is a very contradicting thing here. Okay, this is the hypocrisy of socialism. Actually, they talk about the social welfare. Okay, they want to promote social welfare in society, but they have no regard to the choice and preference of the society, okay, of the consumers, because consumers, they form the society, isn't it? So they disregard the choice and preference of the consumers, so they ignore it completely, and they make the uh, planning. It is actually a one sided planning. Okay, they do not listen to what the consumers they want to buy. Okay, like in North Korea, if you again go to North Korea as an example, that many people out there, they may want to worship Lord Buddha, maybe someone to be a Christian, maybe someone to worship Lord Shiva. Okay, or maybe sometimes they want to cut the hair as per whatever the um, TikTokers nowadays are doing. Okay, they want to have such kind of hairstyle, they want to be stylish, but they are not given such freedom. Okay, so they do not listen to the people, and government, depending on their understanding and depending on their survey data, they make the planning, and this planning, it has the loopholes. Now, merits of mixed economy. We saw the merits uh, of both socialism and capitalism. It is the same thing here. Okay, the same thing is present. Whatever the merits we discussed before, okay, of socialism and capitalism, the same thing is present. But here in mixed economy, both public and private sectors are present. Okay, so but let us still discuss in brief. Better allocation of resources. See, in mixed economy, what they do is that central planning authority, the socialism part, okay, the public sector, they will collect the data, and private sectors will be given the task of allocating the various resources. Okay, now economic stability. See, both private and public sectors are present. Okay, and private sectors, they work efficiently. Okay, they perform better. Okay, and center planning authority, they make the plan. Okay, now when the plan and the efficiency of work is present, automatically whatever the work is to be done will be better. Okay. uh, you have must have already noticed that in the private hospitals, okay, the treatment is much better than the government hospital, isn't it? So it is such that both private and public are present for the economic stability. Now the profit generation will be made by private sectors, and the situations like deflation, okay, inflation will be controlled by government. Now advantages of market system. Now see, the all the advantages of market system are involved here, okay, like the free enterprise, okay, and now the choice of uh, various goods to the consumers, okay, this right to property, okay, all these are involved here in mixed economy. And also the aspect of uh, rapid growth economic uh, activity is also involved here. uh, you must have heard that many workers, okay, working in private company, they get the incentive, okay, they get car, they get the flat, okay, they set a target, okay, if you sell this much of products, I will give you a flat, 3 bhk flat, okay, I will give you one car. So this is how the economic growth is achieved. See, when the workers they perform well, they get more money, okay, more income, okay, and when the income is more, they save more, and when they save more, they will be able to make investment in the market. So when they make investment, capital is already formed, and now when the capital is formed, economic growth is achieved. So see, the things are related here, okay, they are interlinked with each other. Now check on concentration of economic power. Yes, this is a very good thing here in mixed economy, because we saw in socialism that total control is concentrated only in one hand, that is the government, okay. But in mixed economy, this control is now decentralized, okay. Entire control is not only with the government but also with the private sector, okay. They share the uh, power, okay. So this is how they keep on checking. Let us say out of 100%, 40% power is with private companies and 60% power is with government. So uh, they work together with each other, okay, and they keep on exchanging this power, okay, with each other. Sometimes they may set it to 50%, okay, sometimes maybe 55-45. So they keep on checking this, okay, they keep on regulating this concentration of power between private and the public sectors, okay, so that the power cannot be concentrated only in one particular hand, okay. Now we already discussed that they have economic as well as the political freedom in mixed economy. Now the disadvantage is that the conflict between the two sectors, public sectors and private sectors. So there exists the conflict, and because of this conflict, this mixed economy can have a very short life. Okay, there is a risk of always of having the short life because of the conflict between the two sectors. Because private sectors they want to earn the profit, but uh, this public sector they want to promote the social welfare, isn't it? So what happened is that they have the clash here, okay, their ideology they do not match here. That's why the conflict may arise. And inefficient operation. See, um, when both the parties are present, when both public and private sectors are present, they may want to operate in different directions, isn't it? Public sector they want to promote social welfare, private sector they want to promote profit earning. So they may not work in a mm, unitary way, okay. So they may not work in a unilateral approach. So parallelly they have to work, isn't it? But they sometimes they do not agree with each other. So at this point of time, the entire economic operation may be inefficient, okay. And in contrast, here we can see that the public sector they have poor performance. Uh, as I already gave one example of government and the private hospital. Okay, you can see that in government hospital the beds are not that nice. Okay, uh, the bed sheets are not changed regularly. Okay, and it is very dirty. Okay, but in if you go to private nursing homes, everything is very neat and clean, isn't it? They also mm, give you very nice service. Okay, even the doctors and nurses, they are very polite. Okay, they treat you as a very good customer, isn't it? But in the public sector, that is the government hospital, if you go and talk to the doctor or nurses, what they do, they are very much arrogant, isn't it? They are very much hyper all time. So they do not perform well. Anyway, there is since there is the presence of both public and private sector, what happens is that the public sector, they put pressure on the private sector. Okay, and because of this, there is excess amount of rules and regulations. For example, excuse me, for example, to invest in market, there may be various rules. Okay, like this much of capital can be introduced in the market. Okay, there is restriction always here. Okay, you cannot make guns and ammunitions, you cannot promote this and that. So many kinds of excessive rules and regulations are there, so this discourage the foreign direct investment. Like in India, there are many restrictions. Okay, foreign companies cannot directly enter our Indian market, because still we yeah we adopted the new economic policy in 1990. It is true. Okay, when Manmohan Singh, he was the finance minister that time. Okay, so uh, we adopted the new economic policy, but still we have not agreed to the free trade. Okay, so in India, it is very difficult for the foreign companies to come and invest here. Okay, so because of the excessive rules and regulations. Now let us see the difference between capitalistic, socialistic, and mixed economy. Now I have drawn this type of difference here. Okay, so let us see here. Now, on the basis of social welfare, see, capitalistic economy, it promotes 0% social welfare, but socialism, it promotes social welfare. Okay. Now, mixed economy promotes social welfare as well as profit earning. Now, economic control and freedom. Capitalism, the economic control is decentralized. Okay, and both producers and consumers, they enjoy the freedom. Okay, but in socialism, same is not present. Okay, because the power is concentrated only in one hand, and there is no economic freedom. Okay, now in mixed economy, uh, the control is decentralized here. Okay, there is also the economic freedom, but with certain limitations. Now, profit motive. Capitalism is profit motive. Okay, but whereas socialism is not profit motive, they completely ignore the profit making. Okay, but in mixed economy, we can uh, see both the aspects are present. Okay, the price mechanism also in capitalism, you can see here, it is dependent on the market forces, and in socialism, both public and private, they control the price. Okay, depending on the nature of market. Okay. Oh, sorry. This in the socialism, the entire price is controlled by the central planning authority. Okay. In socialism, they disregard the market forces. They do not worry about the demand and supply, but they just want to fix a price. But in the mixed economy, we can see the price mechanism is regulated by central planning authority depending on market forces. Okay. Now, involvement of government. In capitalism, there is less or minimum government involvement, but socialism, this entire thing is only the government is only controlling, isn't it? So here we can see there is maximum involvement of government. Okay, and in mixed, both government and private sector, they work together. Okay, so government intervention is here present, but not as extreme as in socialism. Okay, class struggle. In capitalism, we can see there is class struggle. Okay, but in socialism there is no class struggle. Okay, so in mixed economy, class struggle is present, but not as in capitalism. Okay. Now, distribution of income. In capitalism, there is unequal distribution of income, whereas in socialism, there is equal distribution of income. But in mixed economy, what we can see here is that there is a proportionate distribution of income. Okay. Uh, like whoever performs better will get better salary, and whoever works low kind of job, they get low salary. Okay. Now, incentives. In capitalism, workers, whoever are more efficient, they get bonus. Okay, and uh, to get bonus, what they do is that they work more harder, isn't it? But in socialism, the same is not present, and this discourage the workers uh, not to perform well. Okay, they just work for the sake of working. Okay, and in mixed economy, the incentive method as well as the uh, this what to say this incentive system is present, but sometimes in the government sector, okay, it is not present. And right to private property. In capitalism there is right to private property, but in socialism there is no right to private property. But in the mixed economic system, we can see here that there is right to private property, but with certain limitations. Okay. Now, thank you, students, that you have watched this entire video. It's a very lengthy video, uh, but I request you to study properly at home, okay, and complete your assignment on time. Study properly at home, okay. Stay safe and take care.